welcome listeners to the Zevu podcast, sharing information with some incredible people from our industry. We're going to be talking about long form content and if it's dead or not. But first of all, let's introduce our panel. I am your host for today. My name is Elaine Watts. I host and produce the Holiday Let Success podcast. And with me today, please welcome Louise Brace, Miva Swenties, and Damian Sheridan. So before we kick off, if you could all take a moment to introduce yourselves. Louise, tell us a bit about you and your background, where you're based.
Okay, so yeah, thank you, Elaine. Well, my name is Louise Brace. I am a digital marketing strategist and a copywriter, and I'm the owner of a company called Rental Tonic. I'm based in Spain, in Malaga. I've been here for 20 years. And so my agency, Rental Tonic, is totally dedicated to the accommodation hospitality business, short stay sector. And I'm just working predominantly with owners and property managers to help them to build their brand through great content, through developing their own independent channels so that they can have kind of more book direct success.
Excellent stuff. Well, a very warm welcome. Miva, could you introduce yourself as well?
Yes, thank you, Elaine. I'm Miva Cifuentes. I am based in Barcelona, Spain. I'm the founder of Flying Cat Marketing, which is also a content marketing agency, an SEO agency. All of our content really is SEO. But for some reason, I like to differentiate between an SEO agency and a content agency. So we are basically an SEO agency for tech companies in the short-term rental space. So these are the property management software, channel managers, automated messaging tools, and those kind of software. And we've managed to get them tens of thousands of website visits and business. And also through good content, brand building, education, yeah, that's me.
Excellent. Right, it's great to have you. Welcome. And finally, our third panelist, Damian Sheridan. Damian, please introduce yourself. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Elaine. I'm Damian Sheridan, also based in Spain. Like Miva, also an SEO, working in search engine optimization with property management companies in the short-term rental industry. And I also direct the Book Direct show, which is an annual event dedicated to Book Direct strategies and education. And also the founder of the Book Direct Network, which is a new platform, again, totally dedicated to direct booking strategies. So yeah,
fantastic. Yeah, great to welcome three top-notch experts in this area. And I think there's going to be a lot of value that they're going to share today. So let's kick off. Let's talk about, first of all, long-form content right from the beginning. Let's start with, for anybody new to that term, what exactly is long-form content? Louise, do you want to kick off with that?
Yeah, okay. So, well, long-form content kind of is or says what it does. It's content that you create, that you craft for your marketing channels, which is in a long format. So you're not looking at short, sharp articles. You're generally, most writers or SEO experts would probably say that long form content is over 2,000 words. I believe it can be less, but what it should always do is cover your topic completely. So it should be all encompassing. And the idea is that you're creating completely valuable content that shows that you're an authority in your field. So for example, for hospitality businesses, that you're the local expert. And it can come in lots of different formats.
Okay, great stuff. So Miva, do you want to give your take on long form content from a SEO? And Damian, do you want to sort of chime in as well? But Miva, do you want to start off? How does that work from an SEO perspective?
So I agree with Louise that it is, a kind of content that totally answers the question. So in SEO, search engine optimized content, that's people who are coming with a specific intent. So there's something that they want to find out. And Google's #1 job is to deliver that intent. So the best kind of content is going to be the kind which, for SEO, it's always long form. It's the kind where if I type in a question and I find your content on Google and I read it at all, and I say, okay, I know now what to do, or I know what I was looking for, I've found the answer, then that's good long form content. Whereas if I'm like, I still don't get it, I have to go look somewhere else, then it's not good content. But the question wasn't about what's good, what's not good. It's about what is long form content. So long form content is, yeah, I guess generally you could say 2,000 words, but I agree that it doesn't need to be 2,000 words. There's some, I think that it needs to be a minimum of 1,000, but I also don't like to focus on word count very much, rather than comprehensively delivering a useful response to the question.
Yeah, really useful. Thank you. Damian, what's your take?
Not an awful lot I can add to what the ladies have said. It's yeah, generally a lengthier post that really goes into a lot more detail than perhaps a standard blog post may do. I think it's something that, yeah, search engines like Google are going to value in terms of being a really quality, authoritative piece on a given topic, and also your user, your end user. Most important thing, you want to make sure that you're answering their question in a way that you're engaging them and essentially going to get them to maybe book on your site.
Okay, great stuff. Okay, so we've got this long form content, big article that's answering questions, as Maiva said, for the searcher, and it's going to be on your website. Where else can you share that length of detail? Is it worth taking it elsewhere, or is the main focus of the long form to bulk out and build the authority of the website, of your own website? Damian, do you want to kick that off?
For me, it'd be all about your website. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yes, sharing on social media is obviously of huge importance. But for me, it would just be a case of using little snippets of you know, the introduction perhaps of your piece, and then linking back to your website. So yeah, for me, it's all about building up your website and being the form of the expertise, the authoritative kind of domain surrounding a particular topic or location or whatever it is you're strategizing around. Got it.
Okay.
May I add something?
Yeah, please do. Go ahead.
So I agree with Damian that all of the content, the main purpose of it is to attract traffic to your own website. So all the content should be published there regardless. However, I think that once it is published there, if you use the right, you know, canonical links, or you know, indicating to Google that you're the original publisher, it's also okay to syndicate that content on other platforms like Medium or LinkedIn polls, depending on where your audience is, because sometimes those have a larger reach. So it depends on what your goals are. If your goal is to build your brand and to get more people to discover just hearing who you are rather than only attracting more traffic to your website, then that's also something that you could use. But don't like always publish it first on your website, because that's where it needs to be. That's where the traffic needs to go to. That's where the ownership needs to go to.
Okay, that's really good. I think it's great to differentiate that the focus is on the website first and foremost. You don't need to publish multiple long form pieces of content on social, but there are locations where you can build your authority outside of the website using this long form content. So that makes it nicer as well when you are creating and putting the effort and the time into creating such a big comprehensive piece, knowing that you can use it in multiple locations.
You can also, I mean, another, I mean, I completely agree with both of them, and another, just want to add another medium or channel, but you can also, I mean, I always like to keep the long form content in my kind of in my land or in my area, in my website or whatever, but something also like creating an ebook which you can, you know, get out to people that you want to you know, that you want them to know more about you, that you want them to subscribe to you. So you use it as kind of to pull in more people so that they find out about your website, about everything it has, about, you know, what you do. So something like creating the content and using it as an ebook is also a great opportunity when you've got a lot of content on one topic.
Great idea. Yeah. So being able to use it in multiple locations, I think it's great that it's been broken down, that you've all pointed out these different places that we can use that long form content, because it's a job to do, which we'll get into. So why is long form content so important? What can it actually do for listeners and their visibility of their short-term rental businesses? Why the long form rather than the shorter form or multiple shorter pieces? Louise, do you want to kick off?
Yeah, well, I mean, Maeva and Damian are much better than in terms of kind of SEO, but I think most people will agree that long form content is much better for your SEO strategy, that it's great for search engines, but I also think it's great for your visitors. So I'm a really organic writer, so of course I always have like keywords and search inquiries and like the intent of why someone is going to come to your site in mind, but I tend to write for the visitor first and foremost. So I think it's great for search engines, but we're also taking visitors into account. Damien might correct me on this, but I do think it ranks better. So that's one thing. And then for your visitors, I just think that you're giving them such a huge amount of value. You know, again, I know I've already said this, but it shows that you're the expert in your field. It shows that you're a local expert about your destination, which is really important for as a hospitality or accommodation provider. And wouldn't it be great to have such an extensive and all-encompassing article on your destination, which can't be found somewhere else? So you're not going to find that on an OTA. If you're really digging down into your destination and why people are visiting that destination, you have such a huge opportunity to write great content and to write in a great format that people are going to find you. So when they do find you, they find everything they need to make that decision to book. And that's ultimately what, as accommodation providers, what we want, that they find us, that they have everything they need to hand on our website to make the decision to book.
Yeah, really well said. Yeah, Damian, so Louise has talked about it from a short-term rental provider's perspective, and I know that you can talk from that side of things as well, but I know that you're deeper into the SEO side of things. Let's look at it purely from an SEO perspective, being found. Why the long form over the short form?
Well, I'll say, first of all, I'm not going to disagree at all with what Louise just said. I think writing for the visitor is paramount now. I think gone are the days when you just write for search engines and you try to stuff keywords in there or just do the kind of algorithmic things. You know, those days are gone. You need to engage your visitor first and foremost, because hey, you might get them to your site, but what are they going to do there afterwards? If your kind of terminology is very robotic, then they're going to leave your site in seconds. So it's all about writing for your user. And it's also, you know, search engines like Google are much more sophisticated now. They pick up on not just your search queries that you've written around, but also, you know, related words and synonyms. So for me, it's the long form is really important, but equally important in there is writing for the user and making sure you're engaging. I think that's of huge importance. So almost work backwards. Write for your visitor first. Have your theme, whatever your topic of conversation is. And then, you know, at the end, you can optimize it with your keywords without stuffing and keeping the natural flow alive.
Would you agree with that, Maeva?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's as simple as looking at it in two different, well, you need long form content to rank on SEO. That's just to rank on search engines. It's just, it works with long form content. So the way to look at it is the way that you're attracting more, I guess in this case, guests to your property. for example, there are two different kinds of channels. There's awareness channels, which is social media, or those kind of channels where people are just browsing and they're not necessarily looking for something right in that moment. You just pop up in their face, and that's your place to use short form content and build your brand and kind of generate demand. And then there's the intent channels, which is search, basically. So that's the highest intent channel that exists. It's more high intent than paid advertising, anything. It's searching that they're out there actively looking for something. And that's where you capture the existing demand. So to balance out, as you're generating demand here with your social media, building your brand, and then you're capturing the demand that already exists. People are already searching for it. And that's why you need the long form content. And then of course, agreeing with everything that Louise and Damian said, writing for the user, providing them value, so that once they get there, if you do rank, they're actually going to stay on the page. But now, even if you are writing things for the algorithm or for the computers, you're not going to rank, because Google is looking at the user experience metrics. So they're looking at how long people are staying on your page, whether they're staying on, they're looking at how they're experiencing your page. So it's not even the dichotomy of, oh, but I need to get them to rank, and then I'll figure out what happens when they get there. You have to think about that from the beginning, because it's not even going to get to the point where you're going to be able to rank it.
Super interesting. Yeah, I think that's really important that you've drawn that out of there. Thank you. Now, yeah, go ahead, Louise. Yeah.
That you know, we're like, I mean, I'm terrible at writing short content. I'm like, everything I write is long, and then I have to like cut it down when it's necessary. But there are also, we're talking about long form, obviously, but there are benefits to short form content as well. So, you know, short and concise articles are easier to read on mobile devices. They're easier to share natively on social media. They're easier for people to read when they have a very low attention span, which so many of us do these days. So like having a mix of both is important. And plus nobody can write long form all the time, because it takes up a huge amount of time and energy. So I wouldn't say go, oh my God, no, I'm never going to write a short article anymore, because they both have their place.
Got it. That's really useful. And it leads me to my next question, which is, I know we touched on how many words are we talking about to differentiate long form to a short form. How many words is really ideal? What would you class as a short form? What would you class as a long form? And I know we said 1,000 words minimum would be long form. Maida, do you want to take that?
Yeah. People ask this question a lot. How many words am I supposed to write? And I don't know if that's the right approach to doing it. I don't know if that's the right question to ask, just because, you know, if I'm Googling, how do I boil an egg? And you write me 2,000 words on that because somebody told you to do long form, I don't need to read 2,000 words about how to boil an egg. But if you're writing about something a little bit more intricate, then it requires more words. So it's really, how many words do you need to, so yeah, I would say long form normally is a minimum of 1,000 words, but to be totally transparent, the way that I figure out how many words an article needs to be on average is I just go look at the top 10, 15 results that are ranking for that keyword, and I take the average. And then I say, okay, these guys have figured out how to explain this with this number of words. So probably somewhere around that average is going to be the number that helps me deliver the information in the right way. I don't know if Damian and Louise agree with that.
Yeah, got nodding heads yet?
I'll jump in. Yeah,
go ahead.
I don't think there's any right or wrong answer to this. I don't think word count should be a metric we should be looking at. I think the last thing when any content marketer or any one of us who's got a property, who's got a website, should be thinking, okay, that's 640, you know, that's 710, you know, that's not how it works. It's a case of just, answering the question comprehensively, making sure you've covered all the bases, and, you know, making sure, I go back to the same word, engaging your end user to the point that it's not waffle, because you could write, you know, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 words, and, you know, 90% of it could be really dull and boring. And that, you know, your end user will also pick up on that and kind of think, well, let's leave that, let's go somewhere else. So you need to engage them. You need to engage them above the fold as well, is what I'd say. Those first couple of paragraphs, make sure you draw them in. I don't know if we're going to touch on this later on, Elaine, but just in terms of, we can all write, say, 2,000 words on something, but if that's a massive big block of text, that's really ugly. Nobody's going to read for a start. We know this. People don't actually read; they skim at best. But if we can bring out those main points in a succinct way, with our lovely little titles and header tags, etc., then that's the way to do it. To just, again, come back to engaging your user. So no word count as such. Yes, 1,000 would probably be what I would be looking at, very minimum, in all honesty. But it depends on your content. If I'm writing something on when is Book Direct Day, there's only so many times you can say, it's the first week in February. There's certain things you can't go into great detail about. So it's all dependent upon what you're talking about.
That's it. Okay, and that leads us nicely into the question that I'd like to try and answer for listeners, and that is choosing the right subject for our audience. How are we going to craft an article? How do we know what question to answer to ensure that we're answering the right question, to ensure that we're crafting an article that helps somebody, for example, wanting to visit your area? Louise, do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that this is a real mix of, probably Maeva and Damian will answer this better than I will, actually, because first and foremost, I think you need to understand your audience and the search inquiries, and how people find your site. So what is it they're looking for when they find you? So it's a mix of knowing what people want, and also knowing what you have as well. So understanding where you are and being that local expert, and knowing why people visit your destination, why people should choose your holiday cottage or your bed and breakfast. So it's a real kind of balance between what are people looking for in search engines, what are the inquiries that they are typing in, that search inquiry that helps them find you, or is going to help, either they found you through that search inquiry, which is super important because that means that they found you through a specific need, but also what are they searching for when they're thinking about your destination. So that's kind of one area, that's the SEO area that I know Maeva and Damian are going to be able to answer much better than I am. But the other is also understanding your own business, your own destination, why people visit, what you have to offer, and knowing how to write around those subjects, those topics. I don't know if this is, well, maybe not relevant, maybe I will wait, because I was going to mention something, but it's probably more about once you found the topic, how to write about it. So
okay, I will come back to you for that, because I'm definitely going to be asking how to go about that. Definitely.
On Egan a few years ago, and it's like a super amazing tip. It's really easy, but it really helps you, especially if you don't know how to start. So
that's brilliant, because 100% there's nothing more scary than a blank page in front of you knowing you've got to fill it with words. So we will definitely get to that. So hold that thought, Louise, definitely. Damian, what is your take on finding the right subject? How do we know what questions people are asking so that we can answer them in our long form content?
Well, there's various tools that we can use. I know a lot of people use Answer the Public. I think it's a great tool myself. I use it. But you know what? Just for anyone listening, Google itself. Google's just got some simple tools that we can all use to find out what people are searching for. Google search, Google autocomplete. When you start to write your location, what are people, typing in there? The related to at the bottom, questions people ask. There's on the main search page on Google, there's so many tools you can use. And those of you watching who use Search Console, that is a gold mine of search queries that people are using to not necessarily click through to your site, but actually to draw impressions of your site. And there's amazing data in there to find. So yeah, some really easy tools there to use. There are some paid that I'm sure Miva and others use, like SEMrush or whatever. They're very expensive. You know, I think maybe average property manager doesn't necessarily need the thousands of pounds or euros on those. But yeah, just keep it simple. Just do some research on Google, I would say. You know, in times gone past, I probably would have said use Keyword Planner, but now actually I wouldn't. I just keep it really simple and just use perhaps those tools that I've mentioned before. There is, in order to get volume though of search traffic per month and to know what search terms are used more than others, Keyword Planner is useful in that respect, but you do need to be having an ads campaign to see proper data in there. But what I like is a simple Chrome extension called Keywords Everywhere. That gives you really simple data whenever you make a search query in Google, and you can see how many people on average, and it's very loose, but on average are searching for that particular query each month. So it's a handy tool. So yeah, there are things that I do, but as Louisa said, I think the intent is really important, and just to kind of think, you know, where are people at in researching their holiday or the reason that they're staying in your location, and try and balance those out.
Got it. Miva, anything from you on that?
Yeah.
From your perspective.
So a couple of comments. I mean, all the keyword research tools, if you research the same keyword in all of the different ones in Ahrefs, SEMrush, they're all going to give you different search volumes because they're all calculating it in a different way. Even within Google's own keyword tools, the volumes are totally different. So they're all to be taken just as a guidance and not like, this is exactly how many search volume. And even the search volume, it's kind of like, well, how many people actually click on this if there is a search volume? So that's something to bear in mind. And another cool tip for using, I love that you said using the autocomplete and the Google suggest. I use that all the time. And actually one thing you can do in there is add asterisks between the words, because then it gives you even more variation. So you can just write the name of your destination, maybe put some asterisks in the search bar and see what comes up. And then you'll get a bunch of keywords there. And yeah, I think that one good way the way that I come up normally with topics for clients as well is to actually ask them. There's something that you could probably ask your guests, maybe give them some kind of survey or form, or just asking them what kind of questions do you have about the area, or look through the messages that they send you. I'm sure that they send messages asking things about the area. Those are all pieces of content that you can create. Every time a client asks me a question, I write a piece of content about it, because I'm like, well, if they have a question, there's going to be more people with that question. So that's something to consider. And then you can take different kind of angles. So there's probably a lot of different kind of guests. So if you're in, I don't know, Barcelona, you can say like, what to do in Barcelona for a single woman, what to do in Barcelona for a senior over 60, what to do in Barcelona for, you know, all the different kinds of people, for a family of 5, for this, for that. So it's not even the locations or the activities or what to do, but it's also all of those different kinds of guests that you could be targeting. So those are just some ideas thrown out there. But if you look at it in that way, like what are all the different angles that I could attack? It's the problem for me isn't, oh, what could I write about? It's more like, whoa, how am I going to have all the time and resources to write about all the stuff that I need to write about? Because the list becomes long. And yeah, the concern is more, wow, that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
a lot of topics. So
yeah, so
easier. Yeah.
That makes sense actually. When you really start to look at the things that people are asking, all of a sudden you're like, oh yes, they asked this, they asked that, I could answer this, and yes, you could end up with a very big list. And so coupling that with the
Can I just jump in there, Elaine?
Yes, go ahead.
Very quickly,
Yeah.
One example of that actually in my place just up the road here, little whitewash village, but I get quite a few people coming from the UK and Ireland, and invariably the guy, and I don't want to appear sexist here in any way, but the guy will say, you know, are there any bars that show the football here? You know, that's like the overriding kind of you know, need. So I wrote a post on that, which gets great traction. You know, bars in such and such that show football, and a really easy one. And you can even liaise with the bar about this and potentially get them to link back to you as well. But those questions that people ask you, really good way to get ideas for a blog. So yeah, good chat.
Superb. Okay, so we're answering our question. We found the ideal one. This is what we're going to focus in on. So say, for example, we went with Myva's idea of things to do in Barcelona for a family of 5. That's a long sentence. And if we're looking at keywords and how many times we want to use those keywords or that key phrase within our long form content, say we've got our 2,000-word article talking about the best things to do in Barcelona for a family of 5. How do we know which are the best keywords to focus in on? Is it that full phrase, or are we going to break that down into smaller parts, or are there supporting keywords that go with that as well? Myva, do you want to kick that off?
Yeah, yes. So Google is pretty smart, and it now analyzes texts, articles, based on a lot more than just the primary keywords. So there are a lot of secondary keywords that will go along with it. So if I'm writing about the best tourist attractions in Barcelona and Google doesn't see the keywords Sagrada Familia and, you know, Park Güell and those places, if it doesn't see there on there, it's going to understand that maybe I'm not really covering that topic. Right. So there are always secondary keywords to go along with it. There are tools, but again, they're very expensive to use. So one thing that you can do is when you're writing the article and looking through the keyword, well, first trick is always have the primary keyword, which is going to be maybe things to do in Barcelona. That's the primary keyword. And then the long tail keyword is going to be adding the modifier.
Or a family of.
Yeah. So you don't need to write the modifier a bunch of different times, like the long tail keyword. I think that that's going to be understood, although you will want to kind of combine those keywords. I don't want to get too complex here because it sometimes can be a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
But I think one simple way to figure out is to just analyze what the top 10 results include. Try to include those, but don't just make it a generic repeat of that. You have to add a unique angle to it. So try to think of, okay, I can include all of these things that the other articles include. How can I add something more special? Or how can I make this article a little bit different or add its own unique value to it? Because otherwise you're just regurgitating what's already there and you're not really providing value. So that's a safe way. And also you can look, like Damian mentioned it, the people also ask at the search results at the bottom, because sometimes those can end up being subheadings. They don't need to be articles all on their own. They can also be a part of the same article that you're writing. Generally, when I research a keyword and I find that, I use the people also ask section as subheadings if they make sense to include in there.
Got it. So that makes it easier for the reader as well, which puts the focus onto the value side of things. So as Damian said, massive block of text, nobody's going to want to delve into that. But adding those different titles will make it easier for the reader. And actually, it's that twofold. It's easier for the reader. It's also easier for being found, which is what we all want to do. So we've looked at the different keywords. How many times should we, in one 2,000-word article, for example, use our keyword, our main keyword? Damian, do you want to talk on that?
6.
6.
Oh, no.
That's the golden rule.
There's no formula at all. I think in times gone past, you may have had some tools, even like the Yoast plugin, which has its flaws, but some people would say, oh, it's 2.4% of text that you should be dedicating to your keywords, etc. It's nonsense, and it means nothing in this day and age. You need to just write around your topic. I would say you certainly include it in your title tag, and in your, like, above it. in the kind of the top, your H1, which is the top title at the top, and in your first potentially in your first paragraph. But really, it's not important to be repeating it throughout your content. And actually, if anything, you may not get penalized, but it may hinder the actual ranking of your site if you repeat it too much. So there's no, well, I'm going to say for me, there's no formula at all. It's not to be repeated a certain amount of times.
Got it. Okay, Louise, do you want to give your take on that? How do you write an article from a keyword perspective?
I mean, much the same as both Maeva and Damian have said. So I don't focus on, I focus on the topic. I understand the phrases and the keywords that come around that topic, that encompass that topic, but I don't have it in my mind that I have to write a keyword or a play on different keywords. I just write organically about that topic. And something that Maeva said that really kind of resonated with me as well is that if you want to compete with businesses that are ranking on Google on page 1 or page 2, whatever, the first thing you want to do is find out what they're writing. And because if what they're writing is working, you want to kind of be able to play with that. You want to do it in your own way. You want to make it completely unique and authentic from your perspective, not from theirs. But if what they're doing is working, then go research what they've written, look at the wording that they're using, and take some of the keywords that they're using and use them in your topic. But I never, like, for example, with tools like Yoast, I mean, you can, if I have a client and the Yoast is a plugin on their website, you know, you can just completely get like carried away with seeing, oh, you know, it's telling me I haven't got enough this, I haven't got enough keywords, I haven't got enough, you know, H2 headers with the keyword in it. It can completely freak you out. So you just have to kind of like put it to side, ignore it. And as I said, write organically, write the topic from your perspective, but obviously do your research and look at what's working, look at what's on page 1, take note from that and make it into your own.
Got it. Amazing. And just before we move away and just to finish off the keywords, I think it might be Maeva mentioned synonyms and how clever Google actually is. Could you just sort of speak on that and clarify how we can use the different language? Yes, do you mind?
So one practice that I try to do always is, for example, reversing the keyword. So if I'm saying activities in Barcelona, then my first H2 is going to also be, you know, activities in Barcelona, blah, blah, blah. And then the next one could be like Barcelona activities, switching it a little bit. So that's just a little thing. But there's just a lot of, how do I explain the semantic keywords? When you find keywords, for example, in people also ask, sometimes they're going to be spelled weird or written in a weird format, or especially when you're doing keyword research, there's going to be things that you can't really fit in that sounds natural and grammatical. And in these cases, if you just write it the correct way, that the user reading it isn't going to be like, who wrote this? It will still work. Google understands this. I know that actually Damian has spoken, explains the semantically related keywords a little bit better than I can. If you want to have a go at that.
Do you want to add your take, Damian?
Well, perhaps I'll give you one example of how search engines like Google have just kind of improved their sophistication over the years. But in years gone past, you guys will know, we had this issue of vacation rentals versus short-term rentals versus holiday rentals. You kind of think, oh God, which am I going to try and rank for here? And you'd be at pains. And at times I would write different posts according to vacation rentals and holiday rentals. But now, kind of fortunately, search engines, especially Google, it understands that they are the same thing. and you actually don't need to write the phrase, that one particular, say, phrase for vacation rentals over and over again. Use short-term rentals, use holiday lets, use holiday rentals, use any one of those search phrases, but Google will understand.
Yeah,
I think that's perhaps an easy way for visitors here watching to kind of understand that.
it's kind of like if you want to rank for, if somebody's searching, what do I feed my 2-month-old Rottweiler? Google will know that the keyword is puppy food. Just knows that from the context, because it's building an entity and it has all these knowledge graphs and it makes the connections.
It's incredible what has been built in Google when we start breaking it down, really thinking about it. It's amazing. Thank you guys for talking on the keyword side of things. Now, let's look at this from a practical perspective, and this might come back to Louise's point, which might be a really useful point she's going to make now. Is somebody writing a new article, they know it's got to be a long article. How can they make the process easier for themselves? Maybe speed it up and take the fear out of what I mentioned earlier. You've got the blank page in front of you, the cursor flashing away. I got to draw this out now and create something that's going to answer my guest's question. It's going to bring them to the website. It's going to entertain them. It's going to be found in Google search. And how can we make this easier for people? Louise, you had a great tip. Do you want to start us off?
I said it already.
Oh.
Because Mavis said it, and it was, well, first of all, I would say that definitely like a high percentage of my time is spent on research. So, it's probably a lot higher on research than it is actually on writing the article, because if you do the research, and I do a lot of note taking. Okay, so I'm doing my research. I would love one day to get to the point where my clients are obviously flying me over to their destination and I'm like living it firsthand, but unfortunately those that are outside of Spain haven't done that yet. So I'm obviously writing about destinations and I'm doing tons of research and I'm a big note taker, for me it really helps. So I write lots of notes and then I look at them and I put them into order. So what is going to intro this subject, and then how does it follow on with all of these notes? And I number them and I write from those notes. And I tell you, it really, especially when you're writing long content, it really helps to do that. And what it also gives you is, like we were talking about, kind of consistency in long form content. So making sure that the content is scannable, easily readable. So you've got your headline, your intro, your lead paragraph, your photo or your video, next section. And if you do that, if you write your notes from your research and then you put them into order, that kind of gives you those sections and it helps you to write longer. If you're writing from first-hand experience, so many people probably that are listening now might be property managers or owners, and so they have that first-hand experience, then I would say you might swap it. So you would write your notes from your first-hand experience because you know your destination better than probably most of the people that are writing on the sites you're going to find on Google. And then go back, once you've got your notes and you've kind of got your format, then go and check on Google. Go and look at what my tip was, to go and read the articles that are ranking on page 1 of Google, look at what they're writing about, why have they been successful, what's the content in there. So yeah, so for me, if I'm doing it from secondhand experience, research, notes, prioritizing the content, putting them into sections. And then if you're writing from first-hand experience, write your notes from your first-hand experience, put them into sections, and then go off and check what's happening on page 1 of Google, making sure that you're incorporating all of that information in your own words.
That's great. That's really useful to help break it down, because if you've done that research and you start to section that out, and as you say, take the reader on a journey, all of a sudden you've got your headers. And if you then incorporate that with what Ivor has said and look at what the additional headers are, these sections, the other questions that you can be answering within that larger question, all of a sudden the page is not so scarily blank anymore.
Exactly. And you're kind of breaking it down into bite-sized chunks, so it doesn't feel so immense. You know, you feel like once your first, like, number one priority has been written, that first part, then you feel like, wow. Once you see, I mean, I write for a living, and for me, often I can sit there with that cursor blinking and thinking, oh my God, I can't do this. But, you know, it's just kind of getting that first part. So if you do that, if you prioritize it, you take the notes, you prioritize them. For me, that really helps, and I think it helps for most people.
Great stuff. Damian, how do you cope with the big blank page in front of you? How do you start an article?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard. It's really daunting to know that you are starting a new piece afresh, thinking, oh my goodness, you know, really to do this justice, I'm going to have to, you know, write a couple of thousand words here. And I'm sure there are people listening to this going, oh my goodness, I've had it already. I don't want any part of this. But, you know, we do have a huge opportunity here over the OTAs. This is one of the biggest opportunities we have, because they are not writing content like this. And I think we need to know and appreciate our own kind of expertise in our local area. I think that's really important, because as Louise just said, nobody knows our destination like ourselves. If you don't know your own destination, perhaps you don't live there or whatever, I would wholeheartedly recommend you stay at your property, go there for a night or two, and just, you know, live like a local. We've heard that somewhere before, but you know, do the tourist things. You know, think what are people actually experiencing in your local area. These are really kind of personable ways to try and gain an understanding of what your guest needs and wants in your area. But I think most importantly, appreciate your own expertise and not be daunted to so much. Use, as Maiva said earlier on, use some of the communication you've previously had with guests and ask them, you know, what they've asked, and just everything you've told your guests probably 1,000 times. Just, you know, you can you can draw upon that, and yeah, and just really, you know, just trust in yourself, I think, is important.
Yeah, really good advice. Thank you. Maiva, how do you start an article when you've got that blank page in front of you? What's your first steps?
My first step is hiring a writer.
Just get rid of this entirely.
No, I mean, I do also write. I don't have very much to add, because really the main thing that makes the difference between being like, oh, where do I start, and just flowing is starting with an outline. Just like Louise was saying, yeah. And then just for me, I have to write an outline, or I'll just go little off topic. I'll, you know, write things that aren't necessarily tight and connected. And with the outline, I can say, okay, I'm going from this, for this, for this, for this. Then I just have to fill in the blanks in between. Otherwise, yeah, I think that Damian and Louise covered that response.
Nailed it. Great stuff. Okay. All right, let's have a look now, because we are coming towards the last few minutes. Let's finish off with looking at really how often should we be dedicating the time to write an article. For example, say we've got a website which is either new, or we've consistently stuck to shorter length articles just out of ease, or we've not really understood how important long form content could be. What's the sort of core amount of long form articles to have as like a base on the website? And then how often should we be adding to that? Damian, do you want to start? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, it does. And it's a question I'm sure Maiva and Luke get asked a lot. You know, how often should I blog or write? And again, there's no right or wrong answer to this. One thing actually I'll say, I was listening to a podcast last night that's pretty well known in the vacation rental industry, and there was a guy on there who was kind of advocating everyone should write articles and blogs 300 words, around by 300 words every week. And this is this is a well-known person who was, drawing upon his expertise, and someone drew my attention to it last night. I was pretty shocked by this, actually, that he was telling people to essentially write what is kind of thin value content. Really, you're not going to really rank that high with an article of 300 words or so. What I would say is write less frequently, but with more quality and more kind of comprehensive kind of content. So if it's once a month, absolutely fine. If it's going to be even less frequent than that, once every 2 months, fine. It's down to the resources that you have. If you can delegate it, as Maive has touched upon, definitely do that, because it's really tough work. But do it in the right way. Do not employ someone on Fiverr who has no idea about your location or about your industry to write something, because that is such a frustrating experience, having to rewrite content yourself. So yeah, just do it however it works for you. Do it, but just do it well, is what I would say. So no given time frame, but yeah, just dedicate the right amount of time that you can allocate.
Great advice, Louise.
I'm in agreement. I tend to, I definitely think that you can't be writing a long form article a week. First of all, you have to think of the come up with subjects and the research. It's just too much. I always ask my clients to let me write a page, so not an article on their blog or magazine or whatever they want to call it, but a couple of pages of long form content, which will be their destination guide. And from there, they can write off smaller articles. So it might be their destination guide. It might be, the top things to do for your ideal guest. It might, but then, things like, depends where you are again, it depends on your destination, but, stuff like, your favorite hikes, in the Peak District National Park. Just did that one for someone, actually. So I think you kind of got to sit down and try to be organized and think about perhaps scheduling your content over a year. And you might say, okay, I can manage 6 long form articles in that year, but I'm going to intersperse them with some shorter ones. A great thing to do is write a long article, and then from those bite size, it might be a list, it might be a long article with lots of sections, and then you can write smaller articles from there, so that you're populating with more content. So when someone finds you from your long article, they're going to find lots more interesting information about your destination on your site. So try to get pages, try to get a couple of long form pages, which are kind of really key and core, and you're not going to be updating it's information that will stay relevant for a longer period of time. And then think about putting a content schedule together and looking at really what's feasible for you. And if you can't handle it, yeah, hire someone to handle it for you.
Got it. Maive.
So this is a big question, the dichotomy between quality and quantity. And I agree, always choose quality over the quantity, but content is a long game. So the less frequent you are with publishing, the longer it's going to take. If you do the more attention you pay to making it good quality and relevant and all that, the better it's going to work. It's just going to take longer. And sometimes you don't know what's going to work or what's not going to work, which is the unfortunate game that we're in. So definitely a bunch of 300-word articles, thin value, like Damian was mentioning, that's not going to do very much for your brand. In fact, I think that you might get penalized for that because it doesn't provide very much value. And for a lot of the topics that you'll be writing, I don't think that it's going to cover it all completely. So then it's kind of asking yourself, yeah, how much are you able to produce? And I would say, don't be afraid. You could write the outlines, for example, and don't be afraid to ask for help, to get a writer to help you, because it is a lot of work to write articles every week. And even if you like writing, it can get exhausting to write that much. So one way to kind of save you from the headache is maybe you do the topic outlines, you research the topics, and then have a freelance writer help you actually write them. If you really don't want to do that, then yeah, pick a schedule that works for you, just knowing that it'll take a long time, but with consistency, it will pay off. But don't expect it to deliver something really fast if you're only going to be writing one per month. One per week is already better, but it's not. I mean, property managers are some of the busiest people in the world, so that's a challenge to achieve that on your own. So I don't know if that answer helps anybody.
Yeah, it definitely does. Thank you. And let's just round off with this final question. Have you got each a final tip that, or is there anything else really to add that listeners can add to their long form article that's really going to ensure that they have the absolute best chance of showing up in searches and attracting their guests? Louise.
Yeah, I mean, as I said before, I mean, if you're writing long form content, always have a consistent pattern, a consistent design for the content. So break it up with different medium, use video, use photos, use subheadings. You can create a speech video. You can write a long form article, and then you can create, there's the great apps where you can create a video for that presentation. And so for people that come there and don't want to read it all, they can watch the video. You can offer it up as an ebook. So that's great value for people that are finding you. And you can also get more subscribers. You can make an infographic to make it easier for people to read. So I would say, write the content, make it consistent, make it scannable, and offer up different ways for people to, once they're there, offer up different ways for people to actually read, watch, or see through a visual that content. Just make it easy and make it adaptable for different people's wishes.
Makes sense. Thank you. Maiva, have you got any final tips for people to take away?
Put it into your system, your writing workflow, to always link back to other pieces that you've written. So if you have 5 articles already published, next article, say, okay, I'm going to link to all of these. And then as you build a portfolio, a library of your content, go back to old content and add links to the new content in there. So just make sure to have a workflow for adding links and making sure that all of your content is connected and not just sitting by itself.
Great stuff. Okay, thank you for that, Damian.
Yeah, much like Louise, I was giving a big thumbs up to that. Internal linking, yeah, without a doubt. I'd also say some external links as well within your copy. Google likes that. So, important kind of authoritative domains, even if it's Wikipedia or something like that, they're useful external links to have. Very bite-sized chunks of text, no more than 2 or 3 sentences, I would say, per paragraph. Keep it really simple, because nobody is going to read a 2,000 word article on your site. As much as you might hope and pray they will and be fully engaged, they won't. They're going to skim it at best. And as Louise said, video is the way forward, just to keep people engaged, keep people on your site for as long as possible, and keep that dwell time high. So yeah, there are a couple of things. And also, it's a bit techie, but also just to have a look at some structured data and schema. But that might be a conversation for another day.
It's amazing. All right, thank you to Louise Brace, Maiva Cifuentes, and Damian Sheridan for sharing just incredible value in today's webinar. I know that people will be able to leave here confidently tackling long form content, and so appreciated your time today. Listeners that have joined us live, there is a survey in the chat. If you could take a moment to complete that so that we can ensure that future webinars are answering your questions, it would be hugely appreciated. All right, we've made it to the end of the hour. Thanks again, everybody, and hope to see you all again soon. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers. Bye. Bye.